Hey everybody, welcome to the Mother Figures podcast. I'm Katelyn D'Arcangelo, founder and co-owner of Figure, Midwestern wife, and girl mom. I'm a dual certified pregnancy and postpartum trainer, majored in exercise science from the University of Michigan, earned my master in management degree from Duke University, and have been coaching in the fitness industry for over a decade. This podcast dives into all things pregnancy and postpartum fitness, especially in how to navigate strength and intensity training in these seasons. Whether you're in it yourself, trying to get pregnant, or coaching this population, you're in the right place. I'm excited to share personal experiences, client stories, guest interviews, and evidence-based strategies to give you the guidance, insights, and clarity needed to navigate these seasons with confidence. And with that, let's get rolling. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Mother Figures podcast. Today's episode is all about breastfeeding and exercise, a few different components, a lot of the most commonly asked questions. So I pulled a few different research studies and some articles to kind of back up what research is saying, but then also going to tie in a few personal notes and things that I've seen amongst my clients and people that I talk to a lot. So let's just dive right into it. First is the main question is does exercise either reduce the quantity of milk or the quality of milk when breastfeeding? And so there is one primary study that comes up, and it's called Breastfeeding and Maternal Exercise, a synergistic approach to improve cardiometabolic health. It actually just got published in October of 2025, which is great because in the pregnancy and postpartum world, there's some really old outdated stuff, and then there's the newer stuff, and a lot of times the newer stuff doesn't get pushed out as hard. So I'm trying to do that through this podcast a little bit. But anyway, so it's a newer research article, which is awesome. It's actually out of Italy. And what they did was they took studies from the 2000s all the way up to 2024. So 24 years worth of research, the old stuff and the new stuff, and kind of combined all of it. They're seeing what has held true and comparing them to each other. And they took studies that related specifically to maternal physical activity during lactation and those that reported outcomes on breast milk, maternal health, and infant development. And so what they found in this collaborative research literature review was that moderate to vigorous intensity or moderate to intense intensity exercise for 30 to 45 minutes a day does not adversely affect 1, milk volume, so the amount of milk produced. 2, it does not affect the nutrient composition of the milk. And 3, it actually improves infant growth, or it does not adversely affect infant growth. In other words, it doesn't stunt their growth or give them less nutrients to grow from, if that's correct wording. So that is all big news. So moderate to intense intensity, 30 to 45 minutes a day does not adversely affect milk volume, nutrient composition, or infant growth. But what they found that was really cool was that instead, breastfeeding or exercising while breastfeeding actually enhances antioxidant levels in breast milk and improves lipid and hormonal profiles. So those are two really big positive things. They also noted that there was only a transient or a temporary lactate increase after strenuous exercise that might alter the taste of milk. So even when I'm feeding Vienna, sometimes right after a workout, I can tell that she's just Mom, what did you just do? There's a little bit of a taste difference right after strenuous exercise. But that lactate level goes back to normal within about an hour, and it has no clinical impact on, again, the volume, the nutrient density, and the quality of the milk overall. Another awesome thing for moms themselves is breastfeeding itself is beneficial for cardiometabolic health. It lowers risk of hypertension and also lowers risk of type 2 diabetes, which are all great things for the mom in terms of breastfeeding benefits itself. And then there's the whole host of things that come with exercising for moms, especially during the postpartum time period when it comes to physical, mental, emotional health overall. We know a lot of those. I've talked about those in previous podcasts, so I won't dive into how awesome exercise is. But there's obviously all those benefits when combining the two. And what the study was trying to find specifically was can the two go together, or are you not supposed to do one without the other? But obviously they are showing that these two are mutually beneficial or synergistic, as the title of this article reflects. And then they also mentioned that at the very end of this article, something super cool, and I should probably do a whole episode on this too, that new data is suggesting that maternal exercise while lactating is influencing infant metabolic programming. So in short, it kind of reduces long-term risk of issues like obesity, cardiometabolic disease. So being a mom that's exercising and breastfeeding your child, that's a combination actually has long-term and downstream benefits for the infant, which is really cool. There's a lot of data coming out too now when you are exercising during pregnancy that also has some infant metabolic programming, as this article speaks of. So really cool topic, and they're just getting in the tip of the iceberg and this kind of stuff, but really cool to see that we can actually program our children to be healthier, not just in utero, not just in these first few weeks postpartum, but like also long term, which is awesome. So that was kind of talking about the question around, does exercise reduce the quantity or quality of milk when breastfeeding? One thing that it was not in this specific study, and I should have found the exact source of this, but in terms of reducing the quantity of milk. So what happens if you start exercising and your milk supply goes down? There's been studies, and I should have found this one too, that have shown that it is not exercise that reduces your milk quantity or how much milk you're producing. It's more so of how much you are fueling. And if you're not meeting that increase in demand that your body needs, because obviously breastfeeding takes energy to do, which is going to be the second question here. But in terms of producing enough milk, we have to make sure that we are replacing the energy lost or used towards exercise in order to fuel ourselves enough to continue breastfeeding with the same amount of quantity. So we have to remember that if we are going to start getting into the moderate to intensity exercise, we have to be fueling appropriately to be able to support both our intensity of exercise and breastfeeding. And so moms who have noted themselves, or like their own case study, they've said, oh, like when I started exercising, my breast milk quantity went down, or like I wasn't able to produce as much. Studies have shown that it's not the exercise that causes that, is the refueling or making sure that we are fueled enough for that increase in demand on our body. So that is kind of question number one, is the quantity and quality piece. Number two, the common thing that I hear is like, oh, I'm spending all this extra energy breastfeeding. How many extra calories do we actually need to support the increase in calories that we're burning? And this comes into like weight loss and all that kind of stuff too. So there's something called the La Leche League, and they do different studies, and they're kind of like this organization. And they have noted that breastfeeding burns about 500 to 700 calories per day. So that's like all of your breastfeeding sessions in general. So in conclusion, I guess not conclusion, but in reality, we should be maintaining that in our energy intake so that we can expend that much energy towards breastfeeding. And then when we are thinking about, burning 300 to 500 calories with our exercise, we might have to increase our calorie intake a little bit more. So it's a lot. Breastfeeding takes a lot on the body, and it's hard because it feels like we're not doing anything because we're just like sitting there feeding our baby. But it is super important to remember how much internal work is actually going into breastfeeding and how much energy we need to take in order to keep up with both exercise and breastfeeding. And this can get really hard when it comes to weight loss, which is question number 3. Does breastfeeding make weight come off faster, or does it make weight stay on? I think there's a misconception that breastfeeding just makes you burn all your newborn weight off, and you're gonna, like, if you're breastfeeding, then you're gonna go right back to your normal, and that is also not the case. So a few pieces here. One, in the European Journal of Midwifery, I don't know how to say that. There was a study in 2023 called The Effect of Breastfeeding on Women's Weight Loss After Childbirth and Body Mass Composition. And what they found in that study, and this is research, and I'll talk about kind of in clinical or personal experience after this, was that breastfeeding did affect women's weight loss around 6 to 7 weeks postpartum, but not at 1 year postpartum compared to non-breastfeeding moms. So when they took breastfeeding moms and non-breastfeeding moms around that 6 to 7 weeks postpartum, they did find that the breastfeeding moms had lost a little bit more weight than the non-breastfeeding moms. However, those two groups at 1 year postpartum, there was no difference in weight loss in the longer term. However, what they did find in terms of body composition was that at 1 year, the breastfeeding moms did have a statistically significant lower BMI, lower fat percentage, lower obesity risk. So that's a great thing from a body composition. But when we're looking at weight loss specifically, there really was no huge difference. And one thing, I actually did an Instagram poll, gosh, it was probably like a year or two ago now. I had like over 100 people respond to it. And I just asked them like, hey, did breastfeeding like kick the weight off really quick, or did it, did you hang on to more weight until you were done breastfeeding and then you were able to kind of regulate back to your normal weight? And it was like 70% of moms that said that breastfeeding made them hold on to the weight versus it just like shed off. And I think outside of the pregnancy postpartum field, outside of the mom world, it's kind of like a myth that they're like, oh, you're breastfeeding, like weight will come off really fast. I know I had a few people, men, women, whoever, outside of the pregnancy postpartum mom world who are like, oh, like you're breastfeeding, like the weight will come off really fast. And I'm like, that's really not a thing. So the matter of the fact is that like some bodies will lose the weight. Again, it has a huge piece to do with the fueling component of exercise and breastfeeding too. So like if you are under fueling yourself and you're not eating, especially in those early days postpartum where sometimes it's just hard to make like a full nutrient dense meal, in those situations, like you might be losing weight really fast because you are not fueling yourself, and that is malnourishment. That is not good. And sometimes like you're gonna eat a normal amount and the weight just stays on, and it's so independent. So some bodies, again, like to lose the weight, and some want to hold on to that extra fat for that milk production. And I guess it's still out. Maybe there is a study on like why some moms do one or the other, but I have not found that data. So I will get it to you if I ever find it, or if it is a thing. But that is why in the early days and early weeks, early months postpartum, I strongly push moms to not so much focus on weight loss, which is hard because like, yeah, we're, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds heavier than what we normally are used to. So that feels like a strong priority to us. But the matter of the fact is that breastfeeding has so many different body things, it's affecting the body in different ways when it comes to hormonal levels, lipid profiles, energy levels, all this kind of stuff. So I strongly push moms to focus on foundation building, pelvic floor, deep core, all the rehab stuff. Focus on building strength and form in the gym. Focus on healthy habits and routines around nutrition and exercise and sleep and all this stuff. Because while we're breastfeeding, that is sometimes a non-modifiable component where all these other things that we can focus on that can help us build a really strong base so that when our body is ready to get rid of the weight, we're gonna be able to hit whatever intensity it is because we are already, strong from a foundational perspective. So then once breastfeeding is done, whenever you choose to do that yourself, your body kind of becomes completely your own again. So hormonal levels start to become normal. Everything is set, like your base is already set, your hormonal levels start to come down, your body is yours, you're not spending time breastfeeding anymore. Then if weight loss is a goal of yours, then it could become more of a primary goal, because again, our body is ours again. Everything internally is kind of coming back to normal, and we've already built the important stuff like your foundation, your rehab, your strength, your habits, your routine. And then weight loss can be a little bit more simple following all that. So because there's so much variability on whether or not breastfeeding helps you shed the weight or forces it to stay on. Let's focus on things that we can control and that are really good for our overall and long-term health, and then we can kind of go from there. So those were the three of the bigger questions in terms of exercise effectiveness on quantity and quality of milk. How many extra calories do we need to support breastfeeding? And then does breastfeeding make weight come on or off fast, or come off fast or stay on? And then I had three more points of just common topics or personal experience, client experience, and just logistics around breastfeeding that I wanted to throw into this episode on top of the research piece of it. So one is the timing and kind of the logistics around exercising and being a breastfeeding mom at the same time. So for me specifically, I tried to feed, I have a 5-month-old right now and I have a 4-year-old. So this is my second time around figuring this out. But I tried to feed my daughter first and then work out directly after for 2 reasons. One is it feels way better to exercise on empty boobs than it does with full boobs. So for my own personal comfort, it's always better to drain the tanks essentially. And then so I feel more comfortable when I'm doing my higher impact or higher intensity or higher strength based exercises and workouts. And secondly, that also gives my daughter one less thing that she could potentially be fussy about that would interrupt my workout. So logistically and timing wise, trying to time my workouts around her around her eating schedule helps both my body and her just stay more content throughout that hopefully 30 to 45, maybe 60-minute workout. And it'll help my effectiveness of the workout itself. Number 2 piece that I don't think gets talked about enough is when you are exclusively breastfeeding or pumping, that already eats up time in the day that would generally just go straight to your workout. So whether you're pumping or breastfeeding, if it takes maybe 1 to 2 hours. I don't know. I should probably time it out one day and see how much time I spend sitting on the couch or sitting pumping, and adding that up over the course of the day, because the reality is breastfeeding does take up time. Feeding a child and having a child really takes up time, obviously. And so when exercise is already something that is kind of difficult to fit in the crazy days of early postpartum, breastfeeding can make it a little more challenging because you are the sole provider of, nutrients to your baby. And so it's great to breastfeed and I love it personally and I love exercise. And so it just is something else that we as moms have to figure out from a logistical and schedule perspective. And that's just the reality of it. That's not good. That's not bad. It's just another thing that I want more moms to be aware of is yes, when you are breastfeeding, you take out another hour or 2 of your day doing that. And so it's going to take a little bit more effort, a little more diligence, a bit more pre-planning to also then fit your 30 to 45 minute workout in as well. And that can bring about some frustrations, obviously, especially as of moms who love to work out and who that is just part of our identity and what makes us feel good and feel like our best selves and best mothers, honestly. And so that's just the sooner that we can realize that that is just another hurdle that we're just going to have to figure out, it can hopefully help us get less frustrated at the process and also find better routines around exercising and breastfeeding at the same time. And then number 3 is specific movement patterns sometimes can feel uncomfortable, especially in the early days of postpartum when our boobs are kind of regulating, our breast milk is regulating. So one is any movement that's laying on your chest, so prone-based exercises. This can be a variety of things like Superman holds or reverse hypers or just literally scorpions, anything that you're laying on your chest. Even push-ups. I don't like to get into those movements until first my milk has regulated, but also probably past the 10 to 12 week mark. I literally don't think I did push-ups just because of the boob perspective, not because of strength or anything. It's just uncomfortable. That and high impact move, which is the more obvious one. So running, jumping, those kind of things can be really uncomfortable. And that's just another piece of exercise that you have to navigate a little bit better. So high impact bras are a must. I don't have a specific type that works. I have an Athleta one that's really great. I have I'll have to leave it in the show notes. The brand of the ones I just got a few weeks ago. Those I've been wearing. I have to wear those when I run, or else all else fails. But just thinking about logistically, the types of movements that you are programming, anything that's either creating more impact, so up and down jumping, or physically laying on your boobs while your breast milk is regulating early weeks. Try to navigate a little bit more around that too. So those are just from my own personal experience that I wanted to throw into this episode to hopefully help out with breastfeeding and exercise in general. But so hopefully that helped, just the baseline, most common questions when it comes to breastfeeding and exercise. Not only is it positive for us as moms, it is also a great thing to give to our children. All the new research coming out of how the lactating while exercise can help with their programming long term. I just think that's the coolest thing. And just knowing and having the confidence that exercise is not going to ruin your milk supply. Make sure you keep up with your nutrient intake, supplying the calories that you are now increasing the demand on your body for. And if you do that, then everything should be good. So with that, I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Mother Figures podcast. If these episodes help or resonate with you in any way, it would be so helpful to the show if you could leave a review so we can get this into more moms' hands. And if you're looking for even more guidance and direction when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness, I got you covered. My Mother Figures app subscription includes my Figure Pregnancy and Figure Postpartum workout programs, in addition to our general fitness programs. You'll get the day-by-day workouts you need to help you feel strong, pain-free, and labor-ready during pregnancy, and also the recovery, strength, and progressions you'll need to get back to the activities you love, full of strength and without symptoms after baby arrives. If you're local to the Brighton, Michigan area, I also host daily women's functional fitness classes, a 6-week postpartum return to fitness course, and pregnancy and postpartum consultation sessions. For those who are providers, coaches, or practitioners in the space, I hold a live Mother Figures certification course that equips you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to train and work with this population. For information on all of these services and programs, make sure to check out fitisgettingreal.com/moms or head to the show notes for the direct link. I'm so thankful that you tuned in today's episode, and I will catch you next time.